So let's talk about climate change, Greta Thunberg, and the AOC Eat Your Babies lady. Okay, so I think it's pretty clearly established, and I think anybody watching this video knows that climate change is a New World Order scam. It's there it's there to kill two birds with one stone ploy. Basically, climate change is a strong guise for them to be able to bring all nations under the umbrella of a one world government in the name of saving the planet, because it's something that all nations have an interest in and have a strong stake in, according to their theory of climate change. And it's not a theory, by the way, it's fiction that they wrote up deceitfully on purpose, and they know it's a lie. There's not a grain of truth to climate change, not even a little. It's not even a little true. But also, it's the love of money, just simply the love of money, so they can tax carbon emissions and, just loot and spoil entire nations under the guise of, collecting taxes and funds to fight climate change. So everybody knows that climate change, and you should know anyway, that it's theatrics, it's a lie, but it's a charade. It's theatrics. We need to remember as well. This Greta Thunberg character, obviously, when she sat in front of the UN, it's very sad, guys. She sits in front of the UN, a little girl with mental retardation of some kind. She's not well, this child. She's on some kind of spectrum. She's at least autistic. You could tell by her words from when she's been introduced to the world, from the moment she got introduced to the world, that she has some kind of mental problems, and they are kindling those mentally ill fires in her mind. I mean, what a tortured young child. But on the other hand, I don't feel sorry for her at all. She knows what she's doing. She knows that she's been given a script and she read from it, so she knows that she's lying. She's perfectly capable of being accountable for her actions. But guys, just as much as Greta Thunberg is a charade, so is this Eat Your Babies lady at the AOC rally, or the AOC town hall in Queens. I mean, we should be able to see that, guys. And just because some character in the news shows up who is playing the part of some hyper libtard, or playing the part of even a conservative, and bolsters your position and your opinion, doesn't mean that you should run with it, guys. And I think this is pretty obvious when people overlook the fact that this girl at the AOC town hall was clearly trolling. It clearly wasn't real. And whether she was trolling on behalf of herself, or she was trolling because she was some plant put there just to stir things up and cause a ruckus on behalf of some media mogul or some New World Order shill, some climate change shill, or even some conservative planted her there it doesn't matter. We should be able to recognize the lies and the charades when we see it, guys. Just as much as Greta Thunberg was an actress, so was that girl. I mean, if you guys don't know what I'm saying, know what I'm talking about. Today in the news, it was everywhere in the news, and that's another thing that should tip you off, guys. If every news outlet is pushing this story, it's obviously fake. It's obviously a lie. It's obviously part of the narrative that they want. Their divide and conquer strategy, their us versus them strategy to pit us against each other, keep us fearful and fighting. That's simply what it is. So they can keep running off and looting the booty, okay? So this woman shows up at an AOC rally, and she stands up and she says, "Thank you for supporting the Green New Deal. Thank you for this and that. Thank you for fighting climate change, but it's not enough. We're all going to die in a few months unless we eat the babies. We must all eat the babies. That's what she was saying. And to me, when I first saw that, I thought, okay, obviously she's trolling and kidding, and anybody in their right mind should know that. But it didn't stop, a lot of well-meaning people from running with it as if they were watching something real. So to me, there's a problem, guys. It's not consistent when you can, you look at how to look at Greta Thunberg and spot the fallacies. You know how to, look at the coverage of all of these fake school shootings, and there are real shootings, but there are also fake shootings. There are false flags that are real. You know how to go back and watch the footage of 9/11 and spot the discrepancies and anomalies. But why can't you put two and two together that when the media is pushing this narrative of, look at this AOC, this woman at the AOC town hall who says you must eat your babies. Guys, this goes back to like Jonathan Swift's like a modest proposal. I mean, she was probably that was probably her point. She was trolling. She was trying to like probably play a trick on AOC. I mean, I doubt AOC, she might have not even understood that this woman was trolling her. But we, as those who are in the truth movement or awake, not woke, but that's like a leftist term for like climate change and sodomy. But those who know the truth and are saved and understand that the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them that believe not, and that Satan is the God of this world, and that Jesus Christ is oppressed in this world, you should be able to look at that instance of a woman standing up, ripping off her shirt and saying, eat the babies. AOC, your next campaign slogan should be, eat the babies. We must eat the babies. Guys, when the media puts out extreme narratives like this on either side, it's always to cause a reaction and a stir. It's not real, almost ever. So even when they put out if like the New York Times, for example, or one of these big news outlets, they'll post an article that says something similar, like, well, due to climate change, we should start eating human flesh. Guys, that's not even real either. They're trying to stir up good people like Christians and conservatives who are just normal people. They're trying to play on the fact that this is all a fraud, and they're trying to use it against you. So Satan is trying to take the truth that you do have and just use it against you and just poke you and prod you and prod you and prod you with more lies. But so like he's taking the truth and just trying to use it as like a cudgel against you. And it's not real. And that's what this girl is. Whether she was trolling for herself, just for fun, or like on behalf of somebody else, you should be able to tell who a troll is. I mean, it's like kind of like when Christians, I get very frustrated when Christians, they share satire or clearly fake news articles when they're clearly fake or satire. It's almost like there will be a headline from like the Babylon Bee. It'll say like, the Pope admits that he drinks baby blood in CNN interview. And then some Christian will just hastily share it like, see, I knew that the Pope drinks baby blood. Guys, that's not how Satan works. He doesn't just tell you that he drinks baby blood. That's not how the Pope works. They will often put it in plain sight what they're doing, but they're not that just blatant, and they won't just advertently do these kinds of things. So we need to be a little more discerning, I think, as Christians. I don't think I've ever been fooled by some satire article and just hastily shared it as if it was real. Even these fake news articles, guys, like that are made to be, crafty. They're craftily put together in order to deceive you. All you have to do is Google, like, hey, is this news site a real news site, or is this true? And I just don't get it, because even if it's craftily put together, I feel like I can almost always read it. I'm not saying I'm never tricked. I hate being tricked. One of the things that I hate more than anything in this world is being tricked. But I feel like I can at least read a news article and just know when it's complete. Just it's a lie. It's fabricated. It's made to propagandize, and it's made to cause you to emote in some way. It's made to cause a wave of reaction from the public for some psychological operation. But anyway, just be discerning and be wise about that. That clearly wasn't real. It clearly was a charade, and people are sharing it. And I don't know what they're saying about it now. People were sharing it everywhere early. Like on my lunch break, I was on social media and just people were sharing it. I was, on Google. It was just like the big news story. Guys, you don't believe anything CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or all these mainstream news articles tell you otherwise. Why would you believe this? I mean, it's just made to cause ups and downs for the left and the right. Because look, Satan isn't left wing or right wing. He's the devil, and he is not either. But he will use both as his pawns as needed. And when it comes to climate change, these people, it's clearly a charade. It's clearly a fraud. It's clearly a lie. It's all nonsense. They're literally terrified of the breath that comes out of their mouth. They're terrified of some carbon footprint, some phantom carbon footprint. Guys, none of it is real. They literally think that the ice caps in the ocean are going to melt. That the ice caps are going to melt. And that it's going to cause the earth to flood and the sea level to rise like many, as if that makes any sense at all. As if just common logic tells you that that's not true, that's not going to happen. That makes zero sense. That's nonsense what you're saying. Oh, but this, he has a degree, the science agrees. It's science falsely so called. People lie in the name of science all the time. You don't even need to be that well versed on anything to know this is a lie. Actually, all you need to know is one verse in the Bible. In Genesis 8:22, what does he say to Noah after he floods the earth? He says, "While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." He said, look, there's going to be a perpetual cyclical order of the seasons, of the daytime, of the nighttime, of seed time and harvest until the end of the world. It will never stop. You're never just going to have winter coming before fall or something. You're never going to have a spring and summer reversed. You're never going to have the sun staying up for 48 hours straight and the night never coming. It doesn't work that way. The Bible promises that it won't. And there isn't going to be some great climate change. There isn't going to be some ice age. There isn't going to be some great flood because God's not going to flood the earth again. But he will scorch the earth with great heat. And here's the thing, here's what they don't understand when it comes to the man-made climate change myth. Man does curse the earth with his sin. So there are physical ramifications on the earth because of sin. The earth is cursed because of sin. Even you see it in when God says, when a nation is committing the sins of Leviticus 18, Leviticus 19, Leviticus 20, the earth will literally vomit up its inhabitants. The earth will literally have physical problems. And the earth is decaying old and waxing away as doth a garment. The earth does wax old, and it's getting old. I mean, it's old. It's thousands and thousands of years old, the earth. So it's aging, but it's also cursed because of sin. And if man wants the earth to treat him well and doesn't want to be tossed about by great tempests and see these extreme shifts in weather, then they need to seek God, turn from their wicked ways, stop breaking God's laws, and they can have a plentiful, luscious land, and they also just won't be constantly cursed with bad weather. But bad weather and earthquakes and great tempests and stuff like this, it is a result of man's actions, but it's because the earth is cursed because of sin. And that's not the only reason. Sometimes, God can send a storm whenever he wants for whatever reason. He can send it upon the disciples just so he can show them that he can walk upon the water. But this is something that the Bible teaches. I have a couple verses written down. Let's look at Isaiah 66. Isaiah 66. Oh, no, well, this is a verse about choosing their delusions. But there's another verse in... Well, just listen to this. Because since climate change is such a great delusion, I'm not going to bore you too much longer, but listen to what he says. Climate change it's a mass delusion that has many people terrified, especially the younger generation. I mean, they literally act as if they sit and just panic because they think the earth is going to like warm and kill them, that the ice caps are going to melt and kill them, as if it's rational at all to carry this fear around all day. It's clear, it's totally irrational. It's totally nonsense. It's hard to even articulate how nonsensical that fear is. But did you see this Greta Thunberg girl? As she sits there and scolds grown men in the United Nations, and they sit there like this. They sit there like this, as if she's making any sense, as if what she's saying is plausible. And she wags them, how dare you, and just scolds grown men and scolds the world about climate change, about stealing her future. That girl is mentally ill and deluded. She is not healthy or stable mentally. But listen to what God says. He says, if you disobey him, turn away from him when he's reached out to you, etc., etc., I also will choose their delusions and will bring their fears upon them. Because when I called, none did answer. When I spake, they did not hear, but they did evil before mine eyes, and chose that in which I delighted not. So they don't seek God. They don't choose God. Therefore, he messes with their mind on a mass scale and causes them to be terrified of the own breath that comes out of their mouth, of the hairspray that comes out of their mother's hairspray bottle, of some phantom carbon footprint, of the Amazon rainforest catching on fire on the other side of the world. Guys, I mean, it's just crazy, this climate change stuff. But I mean, the devil's going to use it. It's going to be a big instrument in the New World Order. And when I was thinking about the Greta Thunberg and all this, it says in Isaiah 3 how children will be their oppressors. He says right here, oh yeah, here it is. Okay, yeah, here, Isaiah 3:12, I believe it is. He says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err. I should have just quoted that to you. I wasn't confident in my Bible memorization. But he says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err. And before that, he talks about, if you read Isaiah 2 and 3, some of my favorite chapters in the Bible, he says, the Lord doth take away from Judah and from Jerusalem. And he talks about how God takes away great men and people that a nation that is stable and that is of high degree and that is prospering, types of people that we need. He talks about the eloquent orator, about just teachers, prophets, just men who know how to work, the cunning artificer, men who know how to work, men who know how to build things, leaders, prophets. God says the Lord does take away. Let's read it because it's such a good chapter. Let me see if I can find some. He says, the Lord of hosts doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread, the whole stay of water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient. Look, I don't want God to take away the ancient out of my land. I mean, we need wise old men teaching us the right way, but we don't have that. the baby boomers just aren't doing it for us. And when our grandparents die off, the old generation, what do they call them? They call them a silent generation or something like that. And the baby boomers are the aged in the land, and the oldest to the eldest. I mean, be very afraid. He takes away the captain of 50, and the honorable man, and the counselor, and the cunning artificer, and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. He says, look, what happens when God takes all the great men out of the land who can actually teach you something and build you something? He says, children will be your princes, and babes shall rule over you. He says, and the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient. Does that sound familiar, Greta Thunberg? How dare you? You stole my childhood. No, Greta, you weren't spanked as a child, and you have some form of mental retardation. And you are sitting in a high chair in a great seat of the earth, the United Nations, and scolding grown men. I mean, what a shame. What a joke. About something that's not even real, climate change. You know what? Satan is very good at this kind of thing with the climate change, because it's something that all nations are going to have to deal with, because it's something that has implications for all of them if their script is real, which is not. But you know how it's going to end up playing out? The same way that all the anthrax scares, that big false scare played out, ended up being nothing. Swine flu, bird flu, I mean, you name it, Ebola. I mean, just all of these just fake epidemics and pandemics that never play out. They're always trying to scare you that some terrorist is going to release some airborne disease into the subways and into New York City and into the large cities, and everyone's going to die. It's all about selling fear and keeping you fearful so that you are literally a retarded vegetable, that you don't seek God, and that you don't accomplish anything with your life. And so that you do everything they tell you, that you're a good little slave to your master, and that you take the mark of the beast one day because you're so filled with fluoride and climate change fear and television and James Charles and transvestites and sodomy entertainment, that when it comes time to take the mark of the beast, you are just so acclimated to doing exactly what you're told and believing exactly what you're told to believe that it's no problem. You just take it like a good little boy, right to hell, damn yourself to hell. That's the point of it all. So, a couple other verses you could look up. I have Isaiah 66:4 written down, Isaiah 24:5 written down. There's a good verse in Psalms, and then I'm going to let you go, okay? But in Psalms, this is what I believe about climate change. God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. Look, if the whole earth shakes beneath my feet right now, I should get down and praise God, and I should sing to God. And, if the seas roar, and New York City floods today, and it's completely underwater, you know what? It's not my problem. I'm not going to sit in crippling anxiety and become a Greta Thunberg, because that is literally a living hell. Okay, guys, God bless you. Have a great night.